Hey dudes, welcome back to the Beamer Dude channel. Thanks for tuning in. Today we're working on the Mini Cooper again, so stay tuned. So for those of us who have the Alta intake, there's one thing that we know that we definitely get with it. That's definitely sound. It sounds awesome, it sounds great, but the only problem with this setup is it's actually only sucking in hot air. It's actually more of a hot air intake rather than a cold air intake, because it does have some semblance of a heat shield that doesn't really do much but shield from a side of the engine that actually doesn't even produce heat. But don't really know what they were thinking. Maybe it's an older design. There are a lot better designs out there, but there's a lot of these circulating right now on the used market, on eBay, on forums and stuff, so you can pick these up for a good price. The great thing about these is that they actually have a washable filter that actually pulls apart, so that's one of the pluses for it. So I wanted to make this video because I wanted to come up with some type of heat shield to actually shield this filter itself without keeping it inside of a enclosure of sorts. So I was poking around my garage looking for scrap metal, just things that I could possibly MacGyver into some type of heat shield, and I came across something pretty cool. What I came across was some sheet metal, and this is actually from an old TV mounting kit that I actually had mounted on the wall, and as you can see I had to kind of break it off the wall because the mechanism that was actually attached to this, you guys know how these things work, was attached to this and it wouldn't come off, so we actually kind of had to break this off the wall, pretty much making this thing unusable. So I got to thinking, since this is a very thick grade of steel or aluminum, yeah, definitely aluminum, was there any way that I could actually use this to make a heat shield of sorts using the good half, obviously, and this is pretty much what I came up with. And as you guys can kind of see here, I have the potential heat shield set up here, and it's actually kind of locked on to the Alta intake shield that's on the back side of that. There's a pin here and a pin here, and it's actually kind of leaning on it in a kind of a gentle way here. So I'm thinking about going with it in this manner. Obviously I'm not going to let it rest on the intake manifold, or I might, just depending on how I actually set this up ultimately, but I would definitely be covering the top section of the shield itself with some carbon fiber, maybe the rest of the carbon fiber from that wing that I showed you guys in a previous video. But ideally I'd like to kind of slice it, cut it about right here, right before that bend where I kind of damaged this thing when I pulled it off the wall, and then kind of cover this with a sheet of carbon fiber or just something. Cover that with a sheet of something, and that way I can kind of keep these holes here kind of covered. Basically any airflow would basically be coming from the back of the engine and not from anywhere on top of the engine where the turbo is, or just any of the heat from the engine that just kind of resides right here. So yeah, that's kind of the idea I have for this, and I think that I'm going to go ahead and just try to go ahead and cut this at that spot that I previously described, and just kind of mock it up and see what I can come up with, guys. So now that I have this cut, you can kind of see, yeah, I have some areas that I'm going to need to cover, but I do have it at the right length. So I'm going to clean up some of this this corner section here. I think I've done enough to annoy my neighbors by now, but I'm going to go ahead and take care of these little spots right here, and then we'll go ahead and mock it back up over the intake and see where we're at. So it looks like this section right here, right about there, is still hidden in the way. So we're going to go ahead and tape this off and then cut that as well. So we got that cut, got that angle cut. It's not perfect right now, but of course this is going to be covered with carbon fiber over the top, overlaid over top. So yeah, let's go ahead and get it mocked up here. As you guys can see here, I have the heat shield kind of mocked up in place here. Has kind of a nice little, I guess, little shelf right here, and it kind of curves up to the natural curve of the firewall there. So I'll probably use some type of weather stripping like this on the corner there and the corner there and all the corner on the back there, and kind of just line it up. And then also, like I said before, I'll be covering that top section with carbon fiber, a sheet of carbon fiber, and I'm kind of covering that up. So what this will be version 1 of my hood scoop. I know you guys are probably thinking right now, yeah, you just did a video trying to determine what kind of hood scoop I should do, what kind of DUI hood scoop I should do. I felt that this might be the first iteration of it, maybe a version 1 of the complete set. I could easily, once I have this thing set up the way I want to, cut a hole in the top of the heat shield here to kind of coincide with the hood when it comes down, and kind of just shoot air right at that. But for the purposes of this particular section of the intake shield, I believe that this could actually be its own secular component by itself, because it's forcing the intake to actually take air from the back side of the engine by the firewall, and kind of keeping it away from any of the air coming from the turbo manifold and just all the heat that actually is generated here. So by covering this up, it's only taking fresh air from the back side of the engine where it's coolest. So guys, that concludes part 1 of the hood scoop slash intake box video. This is going to be a multi-part series, of course. Since I don't really have a direction on how I'm going to do the hood scoop just yet, I felt it was more prudent and a good use of time to go ahead and work on something else, a different part of this project that you guys actually weren't aware of. But I think that I make some pretty good progress, guys. So thank you guys for watching the BeamerDude channel. And be sure to hit that like and subscribe button, and hit that alert button if you want to be alerted for more videos. And as always, peace out and Godspeed, guys. Wow.